If you ever find yourself frustrated that your acrylic paints are drying out too quickly, then this video is for you. Keeping acrylic paints wet for longer can be a game changer, especially if you're working on detailed pieces, blending your paints, or if you simply want to leave your canvas and come back later. Acrylics dry quickly, but there are several techniques and products that can help to extend their working time. These are my top tips for keeping your acrylic paints wet for longer. The first tip is probably the most simple: spray your paint palette with water. Acrylics will dry faster in dry air, so increasing the humidity or occasionally misting your paint with water will help to keep them wet and workable for longer. I'd recommend using a fine mist spray bottle or even a plant mister to avoid overwetting the paints, as you don't want to water the paints down too much. My second tip is to use a slow dry medium, sometimes called a retarder. This is a medium that is specifically designed to slow down the drying time of acrylic paints, so it's perfect for what we want. Add a small amount of the slow dry medium to your paints and fully mix it in. This is better than just adding water, as the medium contains binder to retain the integrity of the paints. This can extend the workable time of the paints by up to 40%. The third tip is very similar, but it's to use other acrylic mediums, such as a glazing medium or a heavy body gel. These mediums often extend the life of the paints whilst also achieving other desired effects. For example, if I mix this heavy body medium into my paints, it makes them a lot thicker and helps to hold the shape, which is perfect for creating texture and impasto techniques. It also slows down the drying time to keep the paints wet and workable for longer. Make sure you check the medium before using it, as not all of them extend the drying time. Tip number 4 is to use a wet palette. You can buy these from art stores, and you can also make your own. I've created a video showing you how to make your own wet palette from supplies that you probably already have around the house, so I'll add a link to that in the description of this video for you. These palettes keep the paints wet because there is a layer of water underneath, which keeps the paints hydrated and slows down the drying process. If your wet palette also has a lid, it will keep the paints wet for even longer. Tip number 5 is to use a slow drying paint. This may sound obvious, but a lot of people don't even know that these exist, and they really do work. An example of this is golden open acrylic paints, which have an extended workable time, making the drying process more similar to oil paints. This is perfect if you want to create smooth blends without the worry that your paints will dry too quickly. The downside of these paints is that they are often quite a bit more expensive than regular acrylics. Tip number 6 is to work in a cooler environment. Acrylic paint dries a lot faster in warm and dry conditions, so if you work in a cooler room, your paint won't dry out as fast. If we wanted our paints to dry faster, we would blast some hot air onto them, so to keep them wet for longer, we need to do the opposite. So avoid working in direct sunlight or near a heat source like a radiator. I usually turn off the radiator in my studio when I'm painting, and it really helps to extend the workability of my paints. The last tip is nice and simple. Cover your palette with a lid or a wet cloth. Leaving your paints out in the air will make them dry faster, so if we cover them with a lid, it will prevent this from happening. This is why your paints don't dry out when they are in the tube. If you don't have a palette with a lid, you can use old Tupperware pots. This turquoise paint has been in this pot for over a year and it's still workable. You can also cover a regular palette with a damp cloth. This will help to retain the moisture in your paints to keep them wet for longer. With these simple tips, you can keep your acrylic paint workable for so much longer. You can even combine these tips together to extend the time even more. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like this.